Hey everyone, Andrew back again and welcome to another video, and I'm here with a horror update. Got a couple of Blu-rays, some DVDs and a pop vinyl. Okay, so first up for the movies we have Little Monsters, and I've already talked a little bit about this in my top 20 zombie movie list that I recently uploaded. But this is a recent release over here in Australia. This movie came out last year, 2019. It's a zomcom from Australia. It's like a US and Australian production filmed in Sydney. Absolutely fantastic. I had an absolute blast with this movie. Good zombie gory effects. The zombies looked awesome. The cast of characters is fantastic. This one basically centres around a school excursion. There's a group of 5-year-olds and they're trapped at a animal zoo and there's a zombie outbreak. Absolutely hilarious. Very typical Aussie humour, and the humour's pretty crude too. Really enjoyed this one a lot. So yeah, if you're a fan of zomcoms, this one definitely comes highly recommended. Next up we have The Devil's Backbone, which is a Guillermo del Toro movie, and this is a really good Spanish ghost story. If you haven't seen this one, I highly recommend it. It's set within a boarding school, and yeah, it's really well done, very atmospheric, got a very sort of creepy, eerie vibe to it, and really good cast of characters as well. So this wasn't necessarily an upgrade for me. I owned the pretty old UK Blu-ray and I thought it was high time I picked up the Australian release from Umbrella Entertainment. So that's The Devil's Backbone. Okay, so moving on to the DVDs now, and first up for the DVDs we have Freaks, and I've been hearing quite a few good things about this film, and I've got to say I was left pretty disappointed in this one, honestly. So this one it kind of starts off like a kind of post-apocalyptic style film, so it follows a father and her daughter. They're basically living in the confines of their home, so they never go outside, the house is boarded up, and it's basically playing out like a post-apocalyptic movie where going outside is very dangerous. Now, I will say the first half of the movie, when we're getting to know these two characters and it's kind of centered around them being trapped in the house, was really good. And the lighting was absolutely fantastic. There's fantastic use of lighting within this movie. However, when the reveal kicks in and they end up eventually going outside, I wasn't really a big fan of where the story went. It kind of went down that Stranger Things 11 superpowers kind of thing, and I just really wasn't feeling it. For starters, they didn't really explore or weed out the powers that these particular characters had at all. So it was basically just shoved upon the audience. Not a fan of that. And to be honest, I just kind of think that these sort of superpower things have been overdone at this point, and I don't know, I'm wondering if it even works when it comes to a horror movie. I like Stranger Things, but I don't necessarily like them delving into that sort of thing with other stuff, if you know what I mean. I don't know, it kind of feels overdone at this point. So I hope I've been kind of clear on that. But yeah, fantastic first half, I really liked it, but the second half I was not a fan of. So I don't really recommend this one. Next up, I picked up the Nightmare on Elm Street 2-4 film favourite sets. So we have, on the first one we have the movies 1-4, and on the second one we have movies 5-7 plus Freddy vs. Jason. Don't really need to talk too much about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. You all know what this is all about. Really awesome stuff. Well, the first 4 anyway, and Freddy vs. Jason is pretty good, but I'm not a big fan of parts 5-7. But really cheap. These were like $5 each, brand new on eBay, so decided just to add these into the collection, and I quite like the covers on these two sets as well, so yeah, not a bad pickup there. Next up we have Killing Ground, and this is an Australian horror movie, and this was fantastic. I definitely highly recommend this one. It's a few years old now. I think it came out in either 2016 or 2017, somewhere around then anyway, and I've been meaning to pick this one up ever since. And this is the Scream Factory, the IFC release. It doesn't even have a local release over here in Australia, which is a shame, but at the same time not too surprising. But I wish it did have a local release, because I think this movie would do pretty well. Kind of similar to Wolf Creek, and yeah, as I said, this was absolutely fantastic. So this one basically centres around a young couple on a camping trip. When they arrive at their destination, they come across an abandoned campsite. They're kind of worried, and then they later discover that the campers have been killed off, and basically they are the killer's next targets. Absolutely fantastic. I really loved the way that the story unfolded in this one, because it's kind of told in almost three different perspectives. So you've got the perspective of the young couple that have arrived at this camping spot, and then it also plays out with the perspective of the original victims from the abandoned campsite, and then you also get a bit of a glimpse into the lives of the killers as well. But absolutely phenomenal, very, very realistic. It's not overly gory, but there's quite a few pretty violent and brutal scenes throughout this movie, and they don't hold back. So yeah, if you're looking for a really realistic, pretty gritty and raw serial killer movie, I guess, centered around camping, I definitely highly recommend checking out Killing Ground. Fantastic movie. Next up we have Lost Things, and this is another Australian horror film that I don't think I've ever heard anyone ever talk about. I actually only found out about this movie myself fairly recently, and I was lucky enough to pick up a copy on eBay without too much difficulty, and I think I only paid about $10 for it, if that. Fairly old DVD here, as you can tell from the classifications logo, so I don't know how readily available this movie is, but this is another one like Killing Ground that I definitely recommend checking out. Now, it won't be for everyone, because the story is kind of slow, and some people may find the way that the story unfolds and is told throughout the movie a little bit confusing, but I don't know, for some reason I just really got into it. It's an independent horror movie, it's pretty low budget, and the cast of characters for the most part are unknown actors, but I was really, really impressed with this. The thing that really stood out to me with this movie was the atmosphere. So basically this one centres around a group of 4 school leavers, and they go on a weekend camp trip to an isolated beach. So it's pretty much entirely set on this location of the beach. Most of it is filmed during the day, and yeah, the location and setting is phenomenal. It has a really, really creepy and genuinely pretty haunting atmosphere throughout the movie. Very, very well done, extremely atmospheric. So if you're a fan of atmospheric horror, I definitely recommend checking this one out. And if you like beach setting horror movies, which there's not really a lot of that I can think of, fantastic location. Really, really enjoyed this one. The storyline, though, as I said, it's kind of slow. It might confuse a few people, and it kind of plays out like deja vu. So there's little sort of hints that you definitely have to keep an eye out throughout this movie, but everything sort of comes together towards the end of the film. But really, really good. I really enjoyed this one a lot, so I definitely recommend checking this one out. Okay, and the last movie we have here, pretty much saved the best till last, is Haunt. Now I'm going to keep my opinions pretty brief for this update, but if you're interested in my more in-depth opinions and thoughts on this movie, check out my Slashback Slasher review that I uploaded a couple of weeks ago on Haunt if you haven't watched it already. But all I will say though is this movie is fantastic. It was my favourite slasher film from last year, 2019. Absolutely awesome movie. I loved it a lot. This one basically centres around a group of characters who go to an extreme haunt, and once they're there they get picked off one by one by a group of killers. Really well done. The haunt location's fantastic. All the different themed rooms are really good. The killers were awesome. This one has some pretty good kills, and it's just a lot of fun. So yeah, if you haven't seen Haunt yet, I definitely highly recommend it. Okay, so the last item for this update is the Hellraiser Funko Pop vinyl, or Pinhead, number 134. Really cool pop vinyl. I've had my eye on this guy for quite some time now, and I'm definitely glad to finally add him into the collection. Very cool looking pop. Okay, so there you go. That was my horror update. Let me know what you think of these movies and the Pinhead pop in the comments below. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.